Benvenuti, benvenuti, welcome, welcome everyone.
Ciao.
Welcome, welcome. Ciao a tutti, buonasera.
Buonasera.
Ciao.
Buonasera, buonasera.
Buonasera.
Hold on, I need to take the video off here. That's not the video, the sound. So, mute here, I got it.
Good evening, everyone. We are just wait a little bit that everyone join the call, but we are going to start in a bit. In the meantime, please mute yourself so we can avoid background noises during the events. Of course, we like to have an interactive event, so...
Come ti chiami? Come ti chiami?
Isabella, don't worry, I will
Isabella.
introduce me.
E Tony, ciao.
Ciao, 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 Janet. If you want to, during the event, ask questions to Tony or to me, you can unmute yourself, of course. In the meantime, please mute yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we can start. Again, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining this event. I'm Isabella Carrino, and I'm the owner and managing partner of Italian Experiences. As many of us already know, we have a company that promotes Italian culture and traditions in US. Through the organization of events in person and virtual, like this one. And this is today, we are here for the third episode of Destination Italy with our guest, Tony Cacace, who will introduce himself in a bit. And today, Tony will walk us through the food experiences that, of course, you can do while traveling in Italy. We know that Italy is famous for its food. We love Italian food. Everyone loves Italian food, and include food like parts of your trip. Of course, will give you more authenticity to your experience. You will collect a lot of good memories about your trip. So as I told you before, if you want to ask questions, of course you can unmute yourself, but also you can type your question in the chat box, and I will read the question to Tony. So that's it, Tony. It's your turn.
Well, thank you, Isabella, and thank you to the many who are following episode 3. Thank you for coming back or for being with us the first time. Today, we have the most delicious episode of all. We're going to talk about a lot of food, and it is also a great day because, at least here in California, they are lifting all the restrictions. I have updates also with Europe, where many countries are going to officialize their reopening, including Italy. So we will wait for news towards the end of June. And also some word that also in Europe, they might remove the restriction of wearing masks outdoors down the road, probably sometime in July. And as a tour guide, I also have news from the company I normally work with that they are planning to resume in several European countries, including Italy, sometime in July and August. So we are going in the right direction, especially for those who are planning next year. I think we will have almost all of these issues removed, hopefully all of them, or even if you're planning to go later this year in the fall or in the winter. So that's great news, and let's hope that it continues progressing this way. So as I was saying, today we are going to talk about the food experiences, but I wanted to introduce that the real secret to Italian food is the daily fresh ingredients and local ingredients. Normally, Italians would try to go to the farmer's market or the grocery store every day. My mother used to go every day or every other day so that you can find the freshest ingredients. And also, the concept of farm to table is not a new concept created here in America. The concept of farm to table has always existed in Italy, because we don't talk about national food in Italy, we talk about regional food. In fact, the dishes of each region are typical because they're based mainly on the crops that grow in that region. And we will see examples of this as we go along. Obviously, when we go to an Italian restaurant here in the United States, we are presented with a variety of regional dishes. But when we go to Italy, we don't have to make the assumption that those dishes you find everywhere in every restaurant you go as you travel around, because as I said, depending on where you are, you will have a dominance of the particular regional dishes and maybe some of the national dishes. So we will move with this episode. And if you went to a restaurant and you were having a full meal, the Italians don't have a full meal every day, meaning they don't have an antipasto, a primo, a secondo, a dessert and a liquore every day. They might have a big meal for weddings in most cases, even 10, 11 courses, something that can last from noon till midnight. But also the Italians tend to eat maybe one course or two courses for a meal nowadays. So they are adapting. But if you were to look at a menu in a restaurant and you were gonna go for the full menu, you would normally start with an antipasto, a starter, which could be one of these dishes that you can see. And these dishes are regional dishes. The first one, the caprese salad, is mozzarella and tomatoes. And that is typical of southern regions, in particular the Campania region, because they produce mozzarella as their main cheese, and they have a great production of tomatoes. And not only the tomatoes that you see here cut in the picture, there are also some specialty tomatoes, like the ones that grow up on Mount Vesuvius that are used for the Napolitan pizza. In the picture too, you can see the prosciutto di Parma and the grana or Parmigiano Reggiano. And the words tell you already the origin of these cheeses and meats, Parma. So that is in central Italy, in the region Emilia-Romagna. And so they are famous for the production of their local cheese, Parmigiano Reggiano or Grana Padano, which has become known internationally. Of course, you can find this cheese in many places, but it originates from there. And so if you were in Emilia-Romagna, typical antipasto would be the Parma ham with the Parmigiano Reggiano cut in pieces, and maybe a drizzle of balsamic vinegar on top, because that's also from the area, Modena. In the lower part of the antipasti, you see a carpaccio di carne, or we also have in the north of Italy, bresaola. So it's like smoked beef with some Parmigiano and arugula. So as you can see, the antipasti dishes can vary from the south to the north of Italy. Also considered as part of an antipasto would be a soup. And we have different soups in Italy. Some depend also on the season. Normally, Italians would eat more of a soup in winter months, a vegetable soup or a nice soup of legumes or lentil soup. Like a lentil soup we would have during a traditional feast, New Year's Eve. It's a tradition in some places to have some lentil soup at midnight because it brings good luck and fortune. But you could have also the tomato soup or pappa al pomodoro or the ribollita, also served cold in the summer months. Those are typical central Italy soups. The ribollita, as the name says, is actually a recooked soup. So you make it the day before and then you warm it up the next day. And it's something that I offer typically when we are traveling through Tuscany. You'll find it if you're visiting Florence or Lucca or Pisa. Gnocchi is considered a first course because in Italy we distinguish between a first and a second course. What in the US you would call an entrée, but we have two kinds of entrée. The first course of entrée and the second course. And gnocchi is also quite famous. This is not a pasta. The gnocchi is mainly made of potatoes, or like in the picture number 3, the Roman style gnocchi, they can be made of semolina, which is like a milled flour of durum wheat. And you can see the first picture, the gnocchi sorrentina. That's a typical dish you would find in the area of Naples and Sorrento because it's made with the mozzarella, melted mozzarella cheese and the tomato sauce with, of course, you want to add some basil on top of that. Or you could have the gnocchi with butter and salvia, or you could have the Roman style, which you can see in figure 3. There are also other styles. You could have gnocchi with pesto, for example, or gnocchi gorgonzola in the north, because gorgonzola is a cheese mainly from the northeast. A risotto is another example of a first course. The risotto crops grow mainly in the northeast of Italy. And so risotto is a dominant dish in northern Italy. This doesn't mean that you can't find a risotto in central Italy or sometimes in southern Italy, but you definitely will find risotto dishes in northern Italy. And depending on the region, you have many different kinds. Of course, the risotto with mushrooms, with fungi, if you are more in the areas where it's typical to pick mushrooms or truffles, you could have it with tartufo, so with truffle. You can have along the coast of Italy or where there is close to the sea, a risotto with seafood. Or in the area of Milan is famous for this typical dish, that is the picture number 3, which is risotto alla milanese, made with saffron, and with the ossobuco meat. But again, you can have more varieties of risotto. In the Treviso area near Venice, they are famous for the production of radicchio, which is like a red bitter lettuce. And you could have a risotto with radicchio. Or in Venice, one of their traditional dishes is risotto with peas, risi e bisi, they call it. Or you could have in the northeast a risotto with Barolo wine. And Barolo is typical from the Piemonte and Lombardia area. So as you can see, you can have many versions, mostly dominant in the north, but they can also be found in central and southern Italy. Now we talk about the pasta, and we have different kinds of pasta. We have the egg noodle pasta, which then leads to these creations like the cannelloni, which are normally filled pastas. So the cannelloni can be filled either with a meat sauce or like in the picture here with the ricotta and spinach. The lasagna, typical of Bologna area. That's why the Bolognese style with the meat sauce, but you could find a lasagna with pesto in the area around Genova, which is the Liguria region, because pesto is typical from that region of Italy. The same goes with the ravioli. They are filled either with a ricotta and spinach or with meat, and you can have many different versions of sauces with the tomato sauce, like in the picture, or with burro and salvia, so butter and sage. So there are many versions. Another pasta that is not in the pictures, but is also a filled pasta, is the tortelloni or tortellini from, again, Emilia-Romagna, also filled with either cheese or meat. And I love the ones filled with meat just cooked in brodo, in broth. So those are typical first courses pasta, egg noodle pasta dishes. If we go instead to the dry pasta, you know, we have many different versions of pasta. There are 200 or more kinds of shapes of pasta. And you have many different sauces. Sometimes the sauces or the dishes depend again on the region. The one that you see in the first picture is one of my favorites, is the spaghetti carbonara. Carbonara is typical from Rome area, and it's made with a mix of egg, Parmigiano cheese, and cooked guanciale, which is Italian bacon. There is also another version of pasta from Rome that I love, is the amatriciana from the town of Amatrice, which is similar, but it's tomato sauce based with pecorino romano cheese, and again, the guanciale, the cooked bacon. Picture number 2 is instead a typical pasta that you could find in the south of Italy, typical of Isabella's region, the heel of Italy, known as Puglia, and that is the orecchiette. Orecchiette is a ear-shaped pasta. Orecchio is ear, so it's an ear-shaped pasta with the cime di rapa, which in English would translate to broccoli rabe or turnips. So it's an Italian vegetable from that area that goes well in this dish, sometimes with sausage. So you could find some slightly different versions than the one you see in the picture. And again, in the south, picture number 3 would be paccheri. This is kind of like a very wide rigatoni pasta. Paccheri means a slap when you translate it from the Neapolitan dialect. But it's a very distinguished pasta, which is hard to come across in the United States, but quite typical of the south of Italy. And in the south of Italy, it's very known for eggplants or zucchini. And so this pasta or paccheri alla norma could be from central Italy, southern Italy. As you can see, there is some shreddings of cheese, which in the south of Italy would probably be a salted ricotta on top of the pasta. I'm not going to continue with too many pastas because the list is endless, but one of my favorites is from central Italy, from the region Umbria, and it's called the pasta 𝒎𝒐𝒕𝒉𝒆𝒓 style, or norcina, and that is made with a light cream, mushrooms, sausage sometimes, and shavings of black truffle. So that is really delicious. Every time I'm in that area, I always try to go for that pasta. So pasta norcina or alla norcia. Pizza is typical in Italy. Don't make the mistake of thinking that wherever you go in Italy, the pizza is all the same, because also here there are regional traditions. If you go to Rome, you would find many pizza stores that will have a rectangular shape pizza in a tray, and they will cut it with scissors and weigh it and then sell it to you by the slice and the weight with different toppings. If you were to go to Naples area, They are considered the original place of the most famous pizza, the Napolitan style pizza. This is a very light dough, which is made with a flour 00, has been sitting and to rise for 24, 48 hours. And so it's very nice and delicate and soft. And you normally use the traditional products of the area. For the traditional pizza margherita, you have the mozzarella and the tomato sauce. But you have, of course, many other versions or toppings that you can go for. If you go down south, you can find in the area of Puglia, again, the region of Isabella, a focaccia barese. So for us, focaccia is deep pan pizza, what the Americans will call deep pan. And you can have, of course, beautiful toppings like the tomatoes and olives that you see in the picture. One thing I need to warn you about: when you are ordering a pizza in Italy, never order a pizza pepperoni, okay? Pepperoni does not exist the way you understand it here in the US. Pepperoni, when you translate in Italian, means peppers. So if you order a pizza pepperoni, they will bring you a pizza with green and red peppers on top, okay? Pepperoni is in no region of Italy a name for a salami or meat. Yeah? So if you want your style of pepperoni, you would have to actually order a salami pizza, spicy salami or something like that. So it's very important that you read the ingredients or that you know what you are asking for when you order. Otherwise, you'll be served something that can be completely different than what you expect. Now we go to the main course, what you would consider the main entree. For us, it's the second of course. And this can be a meat or a fish. And we have many versions. If you were in Venice, a very traditional dish is the fegato alla veneziana. This is liver with onions. So if you like this kind of meat, you'll definitely go crazy. My father would love this dish. If you go to central Italy or even northeast, then lamb is more typical. And that is abbacchio, the second picture. If you go into Tuscany, then beef is important. We have some really good beef, not only in Tuscany, also some other areas. But typically, if you went to Florence or Tuscany, you would have to try the T-bone steak Florentine style. And let me tell you, if you wanted to try the real traditional Florentine style, that means you're gonna have it almost rare, 5 minutes on each side. Not that you have to have it rare. You can always ask it for medium, well done, or burnt, however you like it. But the T-bone steak or the tagliata is another beef. Tagliata means cut, so practically sliced and normally sitting on a bed of arugula and parmigiano is one of the options. Also sometimes with some little tomatoes around the side. So there are many versions. Not to forget, we have other kinds of meat. Rome also has a typical dish, which is the pollo alla romana, which is chicken, Roman style, that's cooked in peppers, the real peppers, like I explained before. So tomato sauce and peppers. That's the pollo alla romana. So there are other versions of meat. Also, veal is often a dish in Italy. And in my area of Sorrento, it would be typical to find scaloppine, veal scaloppine in a lemon sauce. Or down in Sicily, you could have a veal scaloppine in Marsala sauce. Marsala, don't forget, is a town in Sicily where they produce the Marsala wine or liquor. So there you go, you have a typical dish from that area which uses a regional ingredient. going to the fish, obviously, anytime you are near the sea or a lake, you're going to come across typical fish dishes. It is typical to have a fritto misto, so a mixed fried with calamari and gamberi, sardines, anchovies, and so on, or the typical fish of that area. Either it's from the sea or from the lake. So here we have the orata and the sole, and many times they have a typical recipe, which is the fish in acqua pazza, in crazy water, which is cooked with white wine and tomatoes. So many options for fish, depending, the closer you are to, as I said, a coastal town or a lake, you'll come across their typical fish dishes. But also very big. You don't have to necessarily go into a restaurant to try the local cuisine. Very big is the street food. Just walking around, you find these little food shops where you can buy food and just take it away and eat it while you are walking. That's the street food. In Sicily, you would come across the arancine, the rice balls, which can be filled traditionally with a meat ragu sauce, but you can find also with the spinach and cheese inside, in the heart of the arancine. You can find the olive all'ascolana. This is a typical street food from the Marche region. Ascolane from the town of Ascoli Piceno. These are olives filled with meat and then breaded and deep fried. You can find the olive ascolana on many menus around Italy as one of the antipasti, also mixed with some other fried food. From Isabella's area of Puglia, we have the 𝒎𝒐𝒕𝒉𝒆𝒓 leccesi. Every time you see this word rustico, it's normally a puff pastry, a crunchy puff pastry, and it has different fillings. In this case, it has tomato and mozzarella, but you can find rustici that have other fillings in other parts of Italy. Or it could be like, you know, a puff pastry with a hot dog in it. You know, that could be something you can also find as a street food. The panelle is typical Sicilian. This is kind of like between a fried dough or fried rice in the shape of little squares. And also one of my favorite fried foods or street foods is the mozzarella in carrozza, which translated means mozzarella on a chariot. My mom used to make it a lot, and practically it's like toast bread that you cut in half. You have a little slice of mozzarella on it. Then you dip it in egg batter and bread it, and then you just fry it in oil. And that's the mozzarella in carrozza. But you find a lot of different street food just walking the streets of the little towns and cities. So you should not miss out on these nice little snacks, or that they can be a whole meal. Sometimes one arancina is enough for a meal for some people. Now we come to the part that I love the most. I would actually start every meal from the dessert, if possible. And there are lots of different desserts in Italy, but we're just listing here some of the most typical. You would come across for sure when you're going around Italy, the panna cotta, which is like a cooked sweetened cream, kind of like a pudding. This can come with different flavorings. I love when they make a nice sauce with berries on the spot, you know, not the syrup that sometimes you find, but a real sauce by just cooking the different berries. It can come with chocolate topping, sauce topping, or caramel sauce topping. So the panna cotta, for sure you'll come across. If you are in the south of Italy, in Naples area, the Campania region, one of their most traditional famous pastries is the babba. This is like a mushroom-shaped sponge cake. It's normally wet with rum or limoncello and can be topped with a little bit of custard cream or cut in the middle with some whipped cream and berries, as you can see here in the picture. If you were in Sicily, typical and most famous Sicilian pastry is the cannolo. Cannolo if it's one, cannoli if it's more than one, plural. And these are these beautiful crispy shells that are filled with fresh sweetened ricotta. And often you have them add these crushed pistachios or almonds or nuts on the end, because these nuts are typical also of Sicily, just like the fresh ricotta, sweet ricotta, which is used for many pastries in Italy. My favorite dessert, I consider myself an expert of this one, is the tiramisu. Originally, they say it came from the northwest of Italy, from the Venice area, but everyone has their own different story. We'll never really know the truth, but we can find thousands of different versions of tiramisu. What you see here in the picture is the traditional one, made with the lady fingers biscuits, the savoiardi, we call them, and with the beautiful cream, which it normally includes egg, cream, and mascarpone cheese, and then topped with cocoa powder. As I said, there's many different versions. I probably tried all the different 1,000 versions of tiramisu, and I would say the one that I still remember today was in the town of Trieste in the northwest of Italy. There are also some desserts or dishes that would only be prepared during holidays or feasts. So many of you would ask, what about the panettone? Panettone is a typical cake for Christmas. Just like in Sicily, they would have the cassata, which you can find during the year, but it started originally as a Christmas cake because of its colors also, white, green, and red. Or you can find typical desserts that are for Easter period, like Naples prepares this famous pastiera napoletana. So depending on the time of the year, there is during the feast of Saint Joseph, there are different versions of these fried zeppole or cooked zeppole with cream on top. It would be a custard cream. In my area, it would be like a heavy ricotta cream in Sicily. So a lot of the desserts or the dishes can change based on the season or also based on a special time of the year celebration or feast. But you're gonna have to wash this all down with some water. And Italy has many, many different options of mineral water because it's a country rich with natural springs, either because they originate from the mountains or from the hot springs. In fact, we have many areas known as terme, so hot springs, like Fiuggi, Ferrarelle, San Benedetto, Oliveto. If you go in an Italian supermarket, you can find probably at least 10, 12 different brands of mineral water. And the Italians would normally drink the one that is closer to their region or area, or you would go with the most popular. And some of them will be slightly fizzy or very fizzy. So it's very important to know that, because when you go to a restaurant, normally the waiter would ask in his English Italian with gas or without gas, which means a fizzy or non-fizzy. But then they try to trick you because there's also the half and half. The Ferrarelle is slightly fizzy or effervescente naturale. So then you get a little confused there. We like to confuse you in the choice of waters. of course, you would have to choose the wine too. Nevertheless, that would take a long time to go through all the different wines of Italy from north to south, white and red wines or rosé, or even sparkling wines like Prosecco and Franciacorta, and Asti Spumante, Barolo, Brunello among the red wines, and so on. But you normally would end a meal with either a amaro, which is a bitter liquor, mainly based on herbs, so different herbs. And also here we have a variety from region to region. You can have the Amaro Averna, which is typical from Sicily. You can have the Fernet Branca or the Ramazzotti from Milan. You can have the Amaro Montenegro from Bologna, or the Amaro Lucano from Basilicata region. So there are many different ones. The Strega, which is a yellow color Amaro from Benevento in the Campania region, and on and on and on. The one you see in the picture with the artichoke, 𝒎𝒐𝒻, that's typical of Padova and Venice. So as you go around different regions of Italy, you can have also fun trying the different amari from the different regions or cities. Or you can just go for the liquori, which is a little bit stronger in alcohol content. You probably know about Sambuca, which would be typical in central Italy, like around the area of Rome. You would have the Amaretto, which is typical from near Lake Como. In fact, Amaretto is known as Amaretto di Saronno, which is the name of the town where it's mainly produced, Saronno, near Italy, near Lake Como, sorry. Of course, it's in Italy. Limoncello, very famous. That's from my area, from the area of Sorrento. But you can find limoncello in some areas of Lake Garda, for example. There is a little town called Limoni, which is famous for having a lot of lemon trees, and they produce their version of limoncello. But the most famous is from the area of Sorrento. And the picture number 4 is typically what you would have in Tuscany at the end of a meal. It's a vin santo, so it's dessert wine, and you would normally have it with these almond cookies called the cantuccini, and you would actually dip these biscuits in the dessert wine, let it soak up the wine, and then eat them. So that is typical from the Tuscan area. Coffee, obviously coffee is sacred in Italy. We didn't have a Starbucks till a few years ago. They opened one in Milan. It's one of their VIP or reserve Starbucks. It's a really big store. And I believe there are plans to open a second one somewhere. But wherever you go in Italy, you'll find a lot of bars and cafes. And typically the Italians would have an espresso. An espresso means a very short coffee, just the core of the coffee without any extra water. But you can find many versions. The shakerato, the picture number 3, is actually like a cocktail coffee. It's actually shaked in like a cocktail and with ice. Or the one in the picture number 2 is just technically coffee with some milk and cubes of ice. Or you can have a affogato, which normally can be considered a dessert. So it's practically coffee with ice cream, with a scoop of ice cream inside. And it's delicious as it melts. I know a place near the Trevi Fountain. While I wait for my guests to take their pictures of the Trevi Fountain, I normally go and have a affogato there. There are also other coffees that you'll see as you travel around. You can have also a lot of the Italians have a caffè corretto, corrected. So that means that they normally have like a shot of grappa inside their espresso to make it a little stronger. Or you can have the cream of coffee, which is kind of like a slushy coffee, very sweet. You find it sometimes on the motorway stops in a machine that is just being prepared in the summer months. So a lot of food. And let me tell you, we only went through probably 10% of the dishes that you could find in Italy, because each region you could expand more and more. And we didn't even talk about all the different wines. But if you were planning to go on your own, you know that as you go around, you could come across all these beautiful dishes, but some itinerary ideas that will actually give you a little more of a taste of Italy are coming up in the next slides. I do want to tell you, no matter which trip of Italy you decide to do, you are always going to be exposed to the different foods of Italy, especially if you're going around different regions. So you don't have to worry about that. But this trip, called the Rome and Tuscan Highlights, is a 9-day trip which focuses on Tuscany. It visits some of the popular cities like Florence, some of the off the beaten path like Vinci, the town of Leonardo da Vinci, some of the trendy ones like Siena, San Gimignano, and Pisa. But most important of this trip is day 7, Tuscan lifestyle experience. On this trip, they have cut out a day where you actually go with a popular chef of one of the restaurants of Tuscany to visit a local market and shop for fresh ingredients. And then you go to his restaurant and you actually have a hands-on cooking class where everyone gets divided for the different courses, for the antipasto, for the pasta, for the dessert, and then you enjoy your own production. So if you want to have a trip of Italy and having this experience of going to the market with the chef and cooking, I can suggest several others. For example, Southern Italy and Sicily. You wanted to maybe explore the south of Italy. I see someone is showing maybe a trip that they're going in the south. This trip, for example, when you go visit Cefalù on day 2, you are taken to enjoy a meal prepared by a local family who lives just on top of the hill overlooking the summer resort town of Cefalù. So you're actually sitting in their kitchen on their patio, enjoying the food that they prepared for you. And on this same trip, when you reach Sorrento, you would have Chef Riccardo that would be having a cooking demonstration, inviting also people to join with the hands-on in preparing some typical courses for that evening. It could be some ravioli or something similar. Another beautiful itinerary. This is from a 5-star company. So if you like to travel, you know, at the top level, but you also want to have more of an in-depth experience with food, this company, Tauck, will take you to visit the Ferrari factory, and nearby you will go and see the Parmigiano Reggiano and the balsamic vinegar in the area of Parma and Modena, and taste those that produce. And then in Bologna, you would have a cooking class with a chef. And Bologna is one of the greatest places to do a cooking class too, because they have some of the best food, unfortunately also some of the most fattening foods. So you have to watch your weight at the end of that trip. Reflections of Italy is another company that offers a beautiful trip throughout Italy, from Milan to Rome, going through the popular cities and a few little off the beaten path, but also they offer a cooking class day while you are in Tuscany. So as you can see, different companies all offer an itinerary that would have a more in-depth experience with cooking or eating. This other company, G Adventures Local Living, is this style that they have produced this focuses also on Tuscany. And it would take you to a home-cooked dinner in Siena, but also a cooking class, a Tuscan cooking class in San Gimignano. For those of you who don't like maybe a trip on a coach or bus, you could also experience the delicious Italian food on a river cruise. Uniworld has a cruise that focuses on Venice and the area of the Delta and Emilia-Romagna. And in many cases, the cook from the cruise will source the ingredients of what they're preparing for you on board from what is available locally in the markets. So that is also a great way to try Italian food, not only driving around, but also enjoying a fully included cruise, river cruise. And this is my information in case you have an interest or any questions, a particular itinerary, or you need help planning your own itinerary or your own group. You can contact me at my email. You can, if you forget my contacts, there's my website and you have my phone number. And with that, I'll pass it back to Isabella and thank Italian Experiences for setting these events up. And I leave you with the slide for the next episodes and I'll let Isabella talk about that.
Thank you, Tony. First of all, I wanted to ask everyone if you have any question for Tony about the itineraries or in general, the food experience you can have in Italy. Also, we have a question about the olive oil. Tony, I don't know if there is some good olive oil in California. Do you have some brand that you can recommend? Right now I'm in Houston. I know a brand called 𝒎𝒐𝒕𝒉𝒆𝒓, and they produce olive oil in Italy and import here in US. I don't know if available also in California. I don't know, Tony, if you have.
I have a few places that I visit on trips that ship internationally. So from Tuscany that can do shipping. I know a place in Sonoma, which is an Italian, they grow Italian grapes and they also produce olive oil. And I've had it often, 𝒎𝒐𝒕𝒉𝒆𝒓 winery in Sonoma. And they can do shipping in the United States. My suggestion, if you want a good olive oil that is original, organic, and the best, you look at the price. If it's average or low cost in the supermarket, it's not real olive oil. It's treated with chemicals. Normally, a good olive oil will cost you double, if not triple, the cost of the average olive oil that you find in the supermarket. So anywhere between $15 and $20 and up, you're buying a real good olive oil. And that's what I try to go for, organic. And you can look where it's produced, because if the label says that it's produced directly by who has the olives, then that's a guarantee. If it's just bottled in the US, often that can mean it's just being treated and bottled and sold for volume and maybe costs $6, $7 a bottle. So I try to avoid that if you're looking for really good olive oil. And of course, if you spend this money on olive oil, you're not going to use it for cooking. You're going to use that only for dressing your salad or for dressing your meat or your pasta after you cooked it.
Oh, Tony, we have a difficult question right now. it's impossible to decide. So just to close the previous question, in Italy, in California, but US, and not only there is a marketplace, maybe it's really big. It's called Italy. I'll text you in the chat box. Is an Italian company that have different big stores in Los Angeles, in California, and they import select high quality selected products from Italy. Each Italy located in different locations in USA, and not only as different brands. So they work with local producers in Italy, and they also ship products. So if you go on their website, you can maybe have an idea of the brands, and maybe also you can buy from them, but also you can buy from directly maybe the producer, because of course they are not only in the Italy marketplace, but also in maybe Costco or other places. So another question that we have is very complicated. So if we want to recommend a few dishes to have in Italy that we can find US, what will they be? So complicated as a question. What restaurant and Italian brands do you have find the most similar in California? Oh my God, I think that answering to this question is really complicated.
Well, I remember the first time I came to the US, I looked at a menu of an Italian restaurant, and it had the pasta amatriciana, which I love. I looked at the ingredients and I walked away, because it had every ingredient possible except the ingredients of an amatriciana. So my suggestion is, first, you want to make sure that the restaurant is actually owned and run by real Italians. Second, you want to learn a little bit about the dishes and their typical ingredients, because even when it's owned and run by Italians, sometimes they have to adapt to the US consumer. Otherwise, they will fail. I went to an Italian restaurant here, and Franco, the owner, on that menu of the day, he had the pappardelle, which is a egg noodle pasta, in wild rabbit ragu, sugo ragu di lepre. I love that dish. I had that dish. I went the next week. That dish was not on the menu anymore. And I asked him why. And he said, because they had to throw away all the sauce, because I was the only one with a few others who ordered that dish. All the others thought, oh no, wild rabbits, ragu sauce? No, I can't eat that. So the problem is that the Italian restaurants here have to adapt if they want to survive and not waste some of the products. But if you find an Italian restaurant in your area with real Italians, you'll see them speaking Italian among them, and the reviews would help. But then you'll just have to look at the food. And it's really hard to suggest one or two dishes. I can say that there are many places in the last 4 or 5 years that have started to make the real Napolitan style pizza. So if you want to try the Napolitan style, you can look, they have a logo outside that says authentic Napolitan pizza. I found a few of these in Salt Lake City, in Pasadena. Sette Bello is a restaurant, but you'll find different ones. So that's what I can suggest. Otherwise, just send me an email and we'll narrow it down depending on where you live or where you're going.
We can help you. I can say another thing about Italian food. Sorry, my cat. Sometimes American people, they go to an Italian restaurant in USA or also in Italy, they can be a little bit disappointed because they expect a certain things of food or dishes, and they have a different one. You will not find in Italy, of course, pasta Alfredo in the restaurants. Never. Okay, we don't used to eat this kind of plate, but of course, American people, they expect to find that in Italy, but they will not. So sometimes you have to go to Italy with an open mind and try the dishes and enjoy what you're eating, because in most of the case, they are regional food. They are really different from region to region, from cities to cities. So it's very difficult to suggest a specific or just few dishes, because maybe if you are in Tuscany, it's okay, we can suggest some dishes, but if you are in Sicily or in Puglia or in Trentino, they are completely different. Okay, so please, if you want specific suggestions, you can contact Tony or me, and we can help you to, answer to these questions.
Let me just add that Isabella is correct that you would not find a pasta Alfredo or even a spaghetti with meatballs in Italy. That was true up to 5-7 years ago. And then I talked to some restaurant owners and they said, you know what, we have added these pastas to our menu because so many ask us, and then we say we don't make it. And we got tired of that. And so what we do is just we make it. It's easy to make a spaghetti with some meatballs or a pasta with a cream sauce and just call it Alfredo. So you might come across it, but then you're not really eating the real traditional dish of that area. They're just doing it to please
could you come to the
tourists.
previous slide in the meantime so the people can take your contact, please? Yes, the slide with your contact. And yes, of course, if you go to Rome, close to the big monuments, and go to have a lunch there, you will find touristic place. Okay, so sometimes they are not 100% Italian. So Italian people, they don't go there to eat. So if you want to taste authentic food, go away from the touristic place and maybe go in the small restaurant in some nice place, or ask to local, because local they can help you to have a really good experience.
And I agree with Isabella because two places that I really loved, one was in Viterbo, north of Rome, and one was in Siena, and they were both hidden in a little alley, and you had to go behind the building and down like in the dungeons. And I had some incredible meals in places like that. So the more hidden and away from the main traffic of tourists, the better chances you have to find a traditional food.
Okay, maybe that's it for the one who donated for today. Thank you so much. We will send you the slides and the recording so you can review all the information. For the other one, if you want to support us with a donation and also receive all this information, we can send you the link to donate. In the next 2 episodes, just to answer to Janet, we will talk about the different kinds of travel. So individual, group, and family. So also for single or for people with family or group, we will have different, Tony will show you different itineraries, different kinds of trips. The next event, instead, it will be about days sightseeing. So next week. Okay, so you can register going to our website for the next 2 events.
And can I just add in closure, another secret of Italian food is normally it's not large dishes, large portions. I remember going to Buca di Beppo here, and this big family style with lots of sauce. So that's not the traditional version. And also very important is balancing the ingredients of your dish. You never have one ingredient overpowering another. So we don't have dishes that use lots of garlic, where the only thing you taste is garlic. We use a little bit of garlic. So that's very important. Very balanced ingredients and not mixing too many ingredients in one plate. That's also sometimes the most simple dishes with just a few ingredients are the most tasteful ones that you will have in Italy. When I'm in Pompeii, I tell people to have just a simple spaghetti with pacchino tomatoes. And it sounds like very basic, but the flavor of these tomatoes that grow up on Mount Vesuvius, and which is the only place you can find them because it's volcanic soil, is amazing and very distinct. So very basic, very simple, not too many ingredients, and just enough, not abundant dishes is very important too.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night. Enjoy your dinner. I think that after this presentation, I'm angry. I need to eat something as soon as possible.
Definitely an episode that will make you hungry.
Yes, exactly. So let's go eat, everyone, and have a beautiful night. See you next week. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.